Call to order. Mr. Ruzan, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah, let's please rise. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
We're missing Mr. Romero and Mr. Gregg, right? Any public comments on items that are not in the agenda at this moment? Any public comments on items not, on non-item on the agenda? No? Okay, we'll get right to it. Item number 1, Grand Plaza Phase 2 Power Center. I believe we have a presentation from Mr. Servin.
Hello, Nick Servin, City Engineer. Well, the day has arrived for the upcoming follow-up phases. And before you, you have several action items that you need to open up for public discussion. The one is let me get to it. The certification of the final environmental impact report. Number 2, general plan amendment. Number 3, zone change. Number 4, tentative parcel map approval, the development review, and the variance for building height, parking lot, pole height, pylon sign height, and master sign program. And I believe we have the developer in the audience that would like to present a little PowerPoint to just give a little more information on the project itself. So with that, I'll let the developer go ahead and take it over.
How long is the PowerPoint? Should we take a seat out there or be quick?
She's going to conduct it from here.
Want to take a seat out there? Or? Is it 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
14 slides, I don't know.
Okay.
It's just about 4 minutes. It's just
Over here.
Good evening, Commissioners, City staff, and citizens of Calexico. My name is Pam Danoff-Krause. I'm the project manager. We need to get to my presentation first. I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Bordertown Investments. Their address is 9034 West Sunset Boulevard, West Hollywood, California, 90069. The applicant proposes to develop a power center of approximately 1,069,400 square feet on 100 acres of vacant land at full build-out. The site is bordered, next one. You won't let you go? Okay, I'll do it over here. The site is bordered, I'm sorry, it's not working. Here on the west by the All-American Canal, the south, the U.S.-Mexico border, to the north, 2nd Street, the Calexico Airport, to the east, the existing Grand Plaza Outlet Mall, the town's expansion, and the new river. This is where the power center begins, here beginning with this. It will be developed in 2 phases. The first phase will be approximately 277,000 square feet with 12 buildings. We hope to start construction for grading in September or October. All right. Next one. Okay. The objective for us is to construct an upscale retail destination between the outlet and the power center. with new, large-scale retailers creating an attractive quality design that positively reflects the property's location as one of the first landmarks within view when crossing the border from Mexico to the United States. Again, I'll say that the proposed project will consist of two phases. The first phase is here, 277,000 square feet. The proposed project includes areas for fast food or sit-down restaurants. It is easily accessible with plenty of parking. It promotes pedestrian-friendly walking through, and the trolley that currently exists taking people from the port of entry to the outlet mall will continue at several points throughout the shopping center. The proposed project's elevations are created with design elements that complement the Grand Plaza outlet mall architecture. A 10-foot colonnade is enclosed under there for the benefit of the customers against inclement weather. Next elevation. Okay. The proposed pylon signs are on a single center pole with double panels. Next one. The monument signs are placed at entry points on a curve for aesthetic appeal. We have located the pylon signs next to the monument signs so they're to minimize the frequency of signage throughout the project. We've also added what we call super graphics here as a design element to break up the building's elevations. The new International Port of Entry is a welcome improvement for the city. Cesar Chavez will become widened and will become the major arterial for southbound traffic. Okay, last. There you go. Again, here's Cesar Chavez coming down. Last one. Grand Plaza Power Center. Next. No, next one. Next one. There you go. Grand Plaza Power Center offers many new opportunities and benefits to Calexico. At full build-out and stabilization of the project, per an independent study conducted by Kaiser Marston for the city, approximately 2,800 new jobs will be created, additional property taxes will be generated, and an additional $2 to $3 million of sales tax revenue. In conclusion, this part of the city will undergo a dramatic transformation from what was a long, narrow parcel of dirt to a new port of entry, a new bridge at the new river, Cesar Chavez being improved, 2nd Street being improved all the way to the American Canal, creating a retail destination of over 1.6 million square feet for the benefit of the citizens of Calexico, Imperial County, and the neighbors to the south. If anybody has any questions or concerns, I'll be happy to address them now.
Do you have a slide with the existing buildings right now?
Excuse me?
Do you have a slide with the...
Those are the existing buildings right there. Those, yes, everything in green is what you see out there now. This in the white is the proposed expansion for the outlet mall. The power center begins here and goes to the American Canal.
So there's also green in between the white buildings, correct? That's also existing buildings?
Okay, here's existing, that's the future expansion for outlet, and here's parking, and then right here going west is where the power center begins. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now that you've had the presentation, we have a little bit of analysis and open it up for discussion. Staff supports this project. We sent it through PRC, Project Review Committee, and all department heads reviewed the project. We didn't find any significant problems with everything, with the whole project. We had already discussed some of the challenges beforehand when we were going through the first phase, so this is just a continuation of what had been discussed. The environmental impact report has gone through review, and staff, including our attorneys, have reviewed the CEQA document, and we've responded to all inquiries about the document and have satisfied all inquiries. So that's your environmental impact report. Number two, the general plan amendment. Again, staff is in support of the JPA because of the project proposed consists of all commercial highway uses, and the industrial designation does not allow for large amount of square footage of commercial retail uses as proposed. As discussed under the project request portions of this report, the general plan would need to be amended in order to allow highway commercial uses on the entire project site. Staff believes that the project is well-designed and appropriate for the project site and in compliance with the city's CH, Commercial Highway Development Standards. In addition, the project will provide added property tax benefits and other social economic benefits to the city. The zone change, or the pre-zone. In support of the proposed project, staff recommends approval of the requested zone change, pre-zone, that is, which will pre-zone the project site from I, industrial, to CH, commercial highway. The project site is currently zoned industrial and would be rezoned to CH, commercial highway. In order to allow the development to be constructed, the new zoning classification would be consistent with the proposed general plan amendment underlying land use designation of commercial. Now, the tentative parcel map. Planning and engineering staff have reviewed and submitted the submitted tentative parcel map and have no major concerns so long as the required conditions of approval and mitigation measures are implemented, which is part of the approval process in this case. The map will subdivide the project into 15 separate parcels to accommodate the commercial, retail buildings and public services required to support the proposed development. The map is consistent with the development standards contained in the CMC in terms of minimum lot sizes, lot width and depths, street width, and other planning and engineering standards and requirements. The tentative parcel map has also been prepared in accordance with the provisions of the requirements of California Subdivision Map Act, Title 16 subdivisions of the CMC. Development review. In support of the proposed project, staff recommends approval of the requested development review permit. The requested development review permit would allow the construction of the conventional large-scale retail uses as proposed, designed in a linear pattern and consistent with the city development standards in commercial zones. And finally, the variance. Building height, parking lot, pole height, pylon height, and master sign program. I won't go through the entire review here, but essentially we have several signs that would otherwise do exceed our sign ordinance, and we're requesting a variance of those standards for this project. And what we have, if you look at your backup, we have a matrix. Let's see if I can find that. I can't find it right now, but let's see, the sign, the proposed project building would range in height from 35 feet to 38 from the ground level, depending on the parapet design architectural features where the code allows 35 feet. On the other, the sign ordinance restricts freestanding signs to one per integrated development, 60 square feet maximum sign face area, and 8 feet in overall height. As a result, the master sign program and variance to deviate from the signs ordinance is required. So we have 3 freestanding signs where one is permitted with 1,245 square feet of sign face area per sign, which is more than the 60-foot square feet per sign that's spelled out in the ordinance. And the overall freestanding sign height of 65 feet in lieu of the allowable 8 foot. The project also proposes 7 monumental signs where one is permissible, containing approximately 500 square feet of sign face area per sign exceeding the maximum allowable of 320 square feet per sign in our ordinance. Therefore, all required the approval of a variance to exceed the maximum recommendations allowed by this code. That was miswritten. So we're asking you to grant a variance for the monument signs from 320 to 500 square feet. Let's see, then we have the pylons. Let me get to that. With regard to the 3 65-foot high pylon signs, even if we approve this, the process would have to be followed with FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. They would in turn have to review the signage, propose height, and go through the process. In addition, we have a county commission, which I belong to, and we would have to approve it there at the county. So it's a 3-step process: the city, FAA, and the local jurisdiction. So there's quite a few review and checks and balances here, so that the public is aware and that we put it out there for the public to review and comment. So our recommendation is for the Planning Commission to adopt resolution number 2015-02, certifying the Grand Plaza Phase 2 Power Center Environmental Impact Report. Resolution number 2015-03, recommending to the City Council approval of the General Plan Amendment. Resolution number 2015-04, recommending to the City Council approval of the zone change. Resolution number 2015-05, approving the tentative parcel map. Resolution number 2015-06, approving the development review. And resolution number 2015-07, approving the variance based on the findings, attachments, exhibits, conditions of approval, CEQA findings, and mitigation monitoring reporting program. There is a correction in the backup that staff will have to take back and discuss with the developer for clarification. And let me get to that. It's in the resolution for the tentative parcel map, and specifically condition number 34. I won't read the entirety, but there is a section we'd like to strike where it says applicant previously constructed the north barrel of 2nd Street and is entitled for reimbursement of offset of a certain amount of money. Well, that we have to discuss. So with the exception of everything else, everything seems to be presented to you and adequate. Any questions?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. We have the EIR consultants that's going to make a presentation, so I'll acquiesce to them.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, persons in the audience, for the record, my name is Mark Blodgett. I'm a principal with Blodgett Bailoses Environmental Planning. As Mr. Servino said, we were the principal preparers of the environmental impact report that's before you tonight. I have a presentation. We'll make it very brief as soon as we get it loaded. Basically, yeah, if we can just go to the first slide. We, very early on when this work effort began, we prepared what's called an initial study. And this is really the first step in a very typically lengthy process. And what this initial study does, it identifies those areas where we need to, one, if we need to do any follow-up work, and in this instance, we determined that an environmental impact report was necessary. And then we filed what's called a notice of preparation, and that was a letter that was attached to the initial study, this preliminary environmental work, and it was sent to various public agencies, county agencies, state agencies, and it was made available here at City Hall. Next slide, please. Now, the initial study looked at a wide range of issues. These are the ones that are in the slide, and if you go to the next slide, these are the issues that were not analyzed in the EIR. In other words, we were able to determine that the impacts would be either negligible or didn't warrant any further review. The aesthetics, agriculture, forestry, geology, mineral resources, population, and housing and recreation. Now, some of these issues are addressed indirectly in the larger document. Next slide, please. These are the issues that were analyzed in the EIR, and these issues corresponded with those that were evaluated as part of the Phase 1 Ground Plaza development, and also as part of our circulation of the initial study, the notice of preparation, a number of agencies responded saying, you know, we'd really like you to look at this area, and so that is exactly what we did. Next slide. Now, the next slides I'm going to go through very quickly, but for the record, I want to make sure that it is in the record that these areas were considered. The air quality impact analysis, again, focused on construction impacts and the impacts from cars and patrons traveling to and from this center. And then finally, emissions related to power and what we call stationary emissions. Next slide. We were recommended by the local air pollution control district extensive mitigation measures. We found that for some pollutants, we would exceed thresholds of significance, but the air pollution control district determined that if we adhered to the mitigation that they recommended, that we would be able to make findings that the impacts would be less than significant. In other words, you wouldn't have to do a statement of overriding considerations. Next slide, please. And again, we basically incorporated all of the air pollution control districts mitigation. A lot of them were dealing with construction, control of fugitive dust, the use of low polluting construction equipment. Next slide. And so we were able to, again, support our findings. The next issue had to do with biological resources. We conducted a comprehensive review of the existing data. Next slide, please. The biologists went out and conducted a comprehensive field survey. Burrowing owls were known to inhabit the property, and they're a protected species. And so the applicant had to pay for the cost of surveys to be done and the burrowing owls to be relocated. And that work effort has been completed. Next slide, please. Again, it's language straight out of the environmental impact report that commits the developer to pay for the cost for the requisite mitigation. Next slide, please. Cultural resources, that includes both historic resources, the prehistoric resources, as well as paleontological resources. Those are the fossil remnants of plants and animals that may be in the area. The historic resources, the site was barren when we were pulled into the project. There were no structures that were on the site of any historical significance. The record search did not identify any significant remains. However, during the grading of the phase one, some materials were encountered, and so for that reason, we recommended on-site monitoring during the excavation and grading phases. Now, what would happen is, next slide, please, we'd have to follow the very specific protocols outlined in the state environmental requirements that govern, what you're supposed to do if you encounter a burial or some significant impact. Next slide. I promise that's not my phone. My wife and business partner sitting right over there. We don't think paleontological resources will be an issue, again, because of the geology and the composition of the soils. But until you get that equipment in the ground, you can never be sure. So that's the reason that we also have monitoring and salvage requirements. Next slide. Greenhouse gas. This is a new issue that we have to look at, and this is related to global climate change. And we basically, while this is a new issue, the local air pollution control district was very active in reviewing this project and making sure that we had all of the mitigation measures that they want to see incorporated into the report. Now, our analysis determined that we would be below the state's thresholds, but nevertheless, we have a large menu of measures that are designed to promote sustainability, energy conservation, and water conservation. Next slide, please. Actually, you can go on to hazardous materials. Go ahead. Hazardous materials, again, the site has essentially been undeveloped. You don't have any substantial, well, there's no hazardous materials related to the previous use. In fact, that was the only materials that were encountered were during the phase one development, and that involved limited asbestos and lead in the structures that were on the site. Here we have a large number of mitigation measures that deal with construction activities. Should a truck have an oil leak or a line break, there's certain protocols that we have to follow to make sure that there's no contamination. Next slide. Also, the site's proximity to Calexico Airport, we needed to make sure that we acknowledged in our study that proximity and the requirements that the project will be subject to both during construction and in subsequent review. And that is primarily due to the height of the signage and making sure that we adhere to all of the requirements outlined in the land use plan that was prepared for Calexico Airport. Next slide. Hydrology and water quality. Now, this is, again, a major issue area that has become increasingly important. Essentially, the new state requirements and the federal requirements related to the Clean Water Act indicate that, one, we cannot pollute any water that is going to be flowing, surface water. And secondly, a certain portion of the surface water that may occur during a heavy rainfall, that water must be impounded on site. So even though we're in a fairly arid area, even during the wettest years, we still have to have all of these measures that deal with the Clean Water Act, construction runoff, and how to deal with making sure that pollution both from construction and once the cars start using the parking lot that there's mitigation in place. Next slide. This again outlines some of the mitigation. Next slide. Land use and planning, the staff report indicated the general plan amendment and zoning and variance related actions The project will be changed in its general plan from industrial commercial, which actually is well suited to the surrounding area. You've got the airport to the north, you've got the phase 1 commercial development, and then on the Mexicali side, you've got residents. So a heavy industry would more than likely not be that compatible when you consider the development that has occurred in the area. Also, we determined that the project would be consistent with the regional growth management plan policies, and that also the jobs that would be generated. Again, as I pointed out, we didn't look at population and housing, but the jobs would be a benefit given the area's unemployment. Next slide, please. Also, and probably most important, the site in its present state is not productive, and it's unlikely that any use other than highway commercial that's being proposed would be appropriate. Next slide. Noise impacts. This project, commercial, is far less noise intrusive compared to your industrial projects. Again, you've got the airport to the north, and you've got the rear of the center and a wall that attenuates or obstructs the noise for the homes to the south. So by and large, the project's noise impacts will be inconsequential given the distance of homes from the property. Next slide. Public service impacts. Police, fire, and other public services are mitigated through the payment of a fee. This project will have to pay all appropriate or applicable mitigation fees to the police and fire. Both entities will review the plans to make sure that the buildings meet their defensible space requirements, making sure that they've been involved in this review up to the present time to make sure that emergency vehicle access is adequate. And then finally, the project will translate into substantial revenue to the city's general fund that would also help defray some of these costs. Next slide. Transportation was the major issue that we looked at. In the top slide, you've got numbers: 22,000 average daily trips a day, 1,000 plus trips during the morning peak hour, that's the busiest morning time, and then a certain number, about 2,000 trips during the evening. Now, I want to really point out that these numbers are overestimates. We're obligated, because a lot of other agencies review our work, to use techniques, standards, methodology that everybody's used to seeing. And so for that reason, we relied on both, trip generation rates that are really not applicable to this project. And we pointed that out in the EIR, and there was no disagreement with that. The majority of the traffic will be cross-border traffic. The market area is certain to attract, patrons from other cities in this part of California, but that would be a relatively small portion. The daily traffic, and this is well documented in fact, we make reference in the EIR, the border crossing information related to the phase 1 operation, that about 40 to 60%, of the people that go to the mall basically use shuttles from the border. And we would expect that it would certainly be at least as much. And of course, as gas prices go up or congestion at the border, that would even increase more. This project has been designed to really encourage that type of patronage as well. Also, you can go to the next slide, but I'm going to speak to this. We analyzed virtually every signalized intersection in the city. And some of these intersections, we looked at, 2 or 3 peak hour trips. And those would be generally from employees traveling to and from the center. The majority of the trips would use Second to access the individual businesses and then the crossing itself at the end of 111. Again, there would be some traffic from 111 that would travel to, 8 to go to other cities in San Diego County and elsewhere, El Centro. But the majority, around 60% would be that cross-border traffic. The last issue, go next slide, is utilities impacts. And again, from a per square footage basis, this type of business places the lowest utility demand of any use. You have an industrial park with offices that have 500 to 800,000 square feet. The utility demand is very high. For a 100-acre residential development, the utility demand would be far greater than what we're looking for this project. So we evaluated the utility demand impacts. City staff reviewed this very carefully, and they also identified the mitigation that would be required as a payment to the city. In addition, the applicant is going to have to provide those utilities and infrastructure that would serve its property. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation, along with, be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
At this moment, we're going to go ahead and open this to a public hearing. Thank you for those 3 presentations. Anybody in favor of this project could speak now. Anybody in favor? Anybody opposing this project can speak now? No? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and close this to a public hearing. And now, any questions, Commissioners?
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question only for staff. Nick or Ralph, if you can help me here. I reviewed your final environmental impact report binder that you provided us, and I don't see any comments from the county public works departments or LAFCO or planning at the county level for that reason. Is there a reason why they did not reply?
Let's see. Do we have any? Okay.
Madam Commissioner, we received a much larger set of comments when we did the notice of preparation. Quite honestly, we're seeing a drop in agency responses on all of our projects because they're really focusing on issue areas where they've got a real particular concern. We didn't. Also, a number of these agencies have been working closely with staff already. For example, the airport. I was expecting to see a long litany of comments from the FAA or the Calexico airport, and they've been working with the city as part of the permitting process. As far as LAFCO is concerned, I really can't answer that. They were notified, and again, many agencies choose not to comment. As far as the public works, again, I think that's a benefit or the proactive nature of the public works of staying on top of this. And making sure that those issues have been addressed.
Okay, okay, thank you for your information. Just for clarification, I'm reading here and I don't understand where it says ID and making reference to an HD canal, that the city will not be able to use water from the HD canal. What is the HD canal?
They were concerned about drainage into the All-American Canal, and we're not going to do that. We're not permitted to do that at all.
Right.
We've got to keep all of our stormwater runoff on the property. So I think that that was just, they wanted to make sure that we weren't going to drain into the All-American.
Okay, but what does HD stand for? That's what I
It's-
didn't, I looked and I just saw the.
It's a
the
nomenclature for that segment of the canal.
Okay, all right. One other question for staff, I guess. Caltrans is making reference to putting together a traffic mitigation agreement with traffic impact study on page 240 of your report. When will that study be ready or is in the process?
That's already been done. Actually, they paid the fee to Caltrans. So for whatever reason, between the time that they responded to the notice of preparation, that work has been done.
So it's done, okay. So staff has a copy of it?
Oh, yes, it's included in the EIR.
It's on file?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have. Any questions on?
Mr. Guzan, questions?
Well, you know, this looked like a good project. The phase one we've seen, it's out there, it's working. I know that the city staff, I want to thank city staff and all the agents, all the companies that were involved in this study. And I know that the EIR have been submitted properly to all the agencies, and anyone is very welcome for comments. This is a win-win for the city. This project from the start, when I was on the council, we always wanted to bring something big to the city of Calexico. And yes, it is out there, and it's growing, and we're seeing the fruit. We're seeing how it's prosper every day. You know, this is something very neat for the city of Calexico, looking for, tax revenue, jobs. This area was an eyesore. You know, there was nothing out there. It was a blighted area, and now it's a project, and it's live. You can see the live when you drive out there with all the businesses, how Calexico has been growing. And it is generating tax revenue, and it's all good. And I love this project from the beginning. I'm all in favor of this. I know that city staff already been addressing the landscape issues that we always, asking about landscape. Everything, it just looked beautiful. And, I didn't read every page in this thing. It's going to take me a year to finish it. But and overall, looking at the project and talking to people and how it is impacting our daily life, our everyday life in Calexico, it is going to benefit the future of Calexico, our youth. And so I'm all in favor of this, and I wanted to proceed with approving. I would like maybe an attorney to read the resolution for us when we have a vote, maybe reading the resolution clear and we take a vote on each one of them. That's all the comment I have.
Thank you, Ms. Fan. I got a couple of questions. Could this project get any bigger? Is there other future phases in the future, phase 3, or is all the land taken?
Well, if I'm mistaken, the developer was here indicating that they're going to build all the way to the All-American Canal, so that's all phase. Now, there could be some sub-facing within the 15 parcels that are being proposed here, that will leave it up to the developer to make it work. They have to, of course, make it work so they can afford to do the project and bring in the tenants. Of course, if it was 100% lease, it would be no question. They'd do it all overnight almost. But they're trying to do the best they can, provided the little restrictions that they have. People interested, tenants trying to buy in, et cetera.
Thank you.
Sure.
So it's safe to say that all the stores are full right now in the existing phase one?
No, I think,
83%. So, but they must be profitable to continue on growing, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
That's good.
And actually, they've had very good leasing activity for the first phase of the power center. And Nick said it could change. We could have so much tenant interest that we're just going to start marching on down to the canal. And it just really depends on the leasing activity.
one thing I do want to say, just to add to the questions that may come up now or later, is that when we first opened the first phase of the project, we had unbelievable numbers come out of there. Several stores, I think 2 stores ran out of merchandise within hours of opening. Others reported record sales. Their corporate office couldn't believe that the sales that they were making at the time. Later on, throughout the weekend that they opened, some stores were running out of merchandise, and they had to get some merchandise from surrounding areas because it was so lucrative. So we did have a big success, and you still see that there is a lot of people out there. We're hoping with this second phase opening that the interest will be there, and other tenants are going to be there and follow through and make their work even harder.
Go ahead.
Nick, now that I have a question regarding the traffic on Second Street.
Yes.
Presently, we are having a lot of traffic gridlock in that intersection of Second Street to 111, going to Mexicali border.
Correct.
And we know that it's already predictable that on the holidays, we always get 4 hours waiting line in traffic gridlock, trying to get people out of Second Street. With this new development coming in, is that going to be addressed by them or the city? I didn't see that either in here. How is the city going to?
Unfortunately, the gridlock that happens there is controlled more by the Mexican government, kind of condensing how many lanes they have going into Mexico. So you create a choke point. The developer can't do anything. The city Calexico can't do anything. However, we are meeting on a bi-monthly basis with a binational group where we discuss these issues. And so we have some people from city council attending those meetings, and we're trying to work with them constantly to try to mitigate those choke points. The Mexican government is committed, and just like government, they work slower than what we'd like them to work at. Now that kind of goes into the port of entry that's coming into town. There was a presentation given earlier in the month, and eventually we're going to have 16 to 32 lanes available coming this way. Of course, that doesn't alleviate the traffic going south, but by moving the traffic to the west, we're going to have more lanes available, and the Mexican government is due to finish up their improvements to allow the traffic to flow through much easier. In addition, the pedestrians, of course you're talking traffic, but the pedestrians will be accommodated as well. We're going to at least double the amount of lanes for the pedestrians. So we have the U.S. government, the Mexican government, local and regional agencies that are working toward trying to make this easy for everybody.
How soon is that
Well, they break ground November
of this year?
for the port of entry.
Okay. And one more other thing I forgot to mention, that small little bridge going towards the mall,
Yes,
does that belong to the city or the county?
It belongs to
One
us.
by the New River.
it's us.
Is that going to be improved, whitened, or?
The idea is to demolish a bridge, build a new bridge in its place. Right now, it accommodates 2 lanes, 1 each way, and ultimately, it's going to be 6 lanes, 3 each way, and the bridge will be raised 4 feet. Now, we're not going to close off traffic, as some people probably speculated. We're going to do 1/2 of the bridge. While the 1/2 is being worked on, the other half will be allowed to have 2 lanes of traffic going each way. Then when that's finished, we'll open up the new bridge and do the same to the other half. Eventually, we'll have a big thoroughfare.
When is that taking place?
Well, we're talking right now about trying to put the plans out to bid. The plans have been completed, they've been reviewed, and they're ready to be bid out today. So, pretty soon.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So at the same time, they're working on the bridge, they're working on Cesar Chavez Boulevard, they're working on the new port of entry and the project, so eventually by 2017, 18, everything is going to be
Yes,
how we want it, right?
yes. Don't forget Highway 98 also.
Mr. Levine, one final question for me. Do you know if there's any agreement between the city and the applicant on hiring a certain percentage of local contractors?
No, but I believe like last couple of years, that the developer has hired a lot of local talent. We're hoping that the developer does the same thing, and I think they're going to try to do something different where they can try to promote more construction by local talent. We had Granite Construction, a local company, of course, that did a lot of the construction of the road itself. We had a lot of locals do some of the landscaping, lighting, some components of the building themselves. So that was 2 years ago, and we're hoping that they follow suit.
I guess my question is it common to have it in writing or just the word? What's the typical agreement?
They're the ones spending the money, so they're trying to watch out for their bottom line. So we can't speak to that. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I have no further questions. Commissioners?
I would like to make at this time a motion. So we're closing the debate on it. I'd like to make a motion to approve all the resolutions, and I would like Jennifer to read the summary of the resolution for approval. My motion is to approve all of them. We can do all at once, all 6 of them at the same time in one resolution. So this is my motion.
And so just to clarify, so we have a clear record, that would be resolution number 201502, certifying the EIR and adopting the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan. That would also approve resolution number 2015-03, recommending approval of the general plan amendment. We also have resolution number 2015-04, recommending to the City Council approval of the zone change. Resolution number 2015-05, approving the tentative parcel map with the change to condition of approval number 34 that was noted by staff. And then we also have 2 more. Resolution 2015-06, approving development review, and resolution number 2015-07, approving the variance.
So there's a motion. Is there a second? I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, what's next? Any staff comments? Any staff comments? No? No staff comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess, any commissioner comments? No?
Not at this time.
Okay. Meeting adjourned then.